Yeah, so please welcome to the stage Amy Hall.
Okay, well, I don't know why I was strangely compelled to tell my story after I've watched some of Jackie's shows. And if you have a nanny, just know that, you know, they may be speaking on stage about you 15 years later. So, you know, there's that. I don't have a nanny, but my story began, it was the mid-90s. I was living in Seattle, and I had a good job. You know, I graduated from college. Everything was really great, except I had this. Should I stand closer? Okay. I'm not. Okay. Yeah. I'm not a comedian, so I'm not going to do a lot of gesturing. So, you know, I had this unrealized dream that I hadn't done in college, which was I wanted to live in Europe, and you know, my options were a little more limited because I'd already graduated, and I really was focused on France, and I had this. Just a lot of romantic ideas about it, and I don't know if any of you have ever watched Jean de Florette or read Peter Mail's A Year in Provence, but it was the southern France, Provence. That was where I wanted to be. I could picture myself maybe, you know, looking for truffles with some peasant pig, you know, and like, they would, I know it sounds silly, but I really did think, you know, they'd help me learn how to make baguettes. I'd be hanging out in the bar with the locals, drinking wine, and it just sounded really great to me to just really live it, not just travel through. And, you know, be really authentic. So about the same time, I met some au pairs who were living in Seattle with American families, and they had a really, it just seemed really great to me because they were, you know, had a free house to live in, really nice house, sometimes a suite. They had free food, a car, a nice car to drive in. They didn't really work that much. You know, we'd go out at night, you know, they worked a few hours a day. They went to vacation with the family in Hawaii. And they were encouraging me like, yeah, you should do this, it's really great. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And I applied, I went, you know, there was one thing that I was a little bit concerned about was that I didn't really like kids that much. I mean, this is true. And I was like, you know, is this a problem? And all the au pairs assured me, no, we don't either, and it's fine. Just go, you know? It's not important detail. And so I was like, okay, yeah, you know. And I kind of staged some photos. I have to admit, my mom had a preschool, and so, you know, with the little kids, and, you know, kind of embellished some experience that I'd had babysitting and sent my packet off. And I received this reply about a month later, and it was so much better than I could have even hoped for. A family living in Provence who had just one 2-year-old child. And the best part about it was they owned a 4-star Michelin Guide restaurant, La Fine Fourchette, and I was just like, you know, I mean, I couldn't have asked for any more. So I was really excited. I talked to them on the phone, they sounded great, you know. I quit my job, I sold my car, you know, had a big party, and I kind of thought, you know, I had a pretty good grasp of French, you know, I'd taken some French, and you know, I flew there, and you know, before I went, I tried to research where I was going a little bit. I'd asked some French au pairs, they're like, oh, I've never heard of that place. And it's called Ballet. And it's just this really quaint, small, picturesque village. And it's not even shown on all maps, which is, you know, it didn't even have a train stop. So I had to fly there and then take a train to a nearest town, which was still like 45 minutes away, which in Europe is a long way. And that's where I learned my first lesson that, you know, if you are going somewhere to live for a year, it should at least have a train stop and be on all maps. Because if it isn't, then probably nobody wants to live there. So anyway, I go there and I arrive at the train station and get off, I'm all excited, and nobody's there to meet me, you know, so it's a little bit of a letdown. It's like, oh, you know. So I just sit there, and then I hear over the loudspeaker, Mademoiselle Amy Hall, blah blah blah, vous blah blah blah, s'il vous plaît. Then I realized, like, I have no idea. You know, I know they're calling me, I don't know where to go, and so I have no choice, I'm just standing there like an idiot. And eventually, you know, it's like, oh, the confused looking American, not that hard to spot, and in a small town. So that's when I learned my second lesson, which was 2 years of mediocre French classes in high school 8 years ago, and then a refresher class in community college do not adequately prepare you to go live in a foreign country, especially if you throw in a southern French accent. But, you know, it's not a big deal. I go, you know, the host mother seems nice. She drives me to the family. We meet the whole family. And, you know, there was a little surprise because they have a 3-week-old little baby boy, too. I was like, oh, you know, I would have thought they would have mentioned that, but, you know, maybe they forgot. It's not a big deal, you know. I can just, you know, it's not a big deal. I can live with that. And so I'm happy overall with the situation, though, because it's everything I dreamed of, where it's this beautiful panoramic Roman ruins kind of village, and the restaurant's beautiful and everything's great, and they tell me I get to live in a house that's above the restaurant, and everyone else is living in the restaurant but me, you know, the family, and there's just staff people, and I'm like, wow, you know, I get a whole house, except it didn't have any hot water. and they sometimes seemed to like inspect it when I wasn't home for some reason, but anyway, otherwise it was really good.